Hello and welcome to the Studio Theater's virtual play reading series. My name is Grace Lafique, and I am the director for this piece and others in our series. Today we'll be reading Antigone, written by Sophocles. Before we get started, just want to say a special thank you to all the folks working behind the scenes to make sure that we have a play coming into your home every Friday at 1 o'clock p.m., either here on Facebook Live or on our YouTube channel, The Villages Entertainment. Right after this stream is over, be sure to check the comment section for a link to our talk pack with myself and the cast to answer any questions you have about our process or the play. So be sure to either refresh or check that comment section below once the stream has ended. All right, that's everything I got for the beginning. Now introducing our cast, all these beautiful, strong women. All right, we have playing Creon, Roberta Emerson.
Hi, I'm Roberta. I'm playing Creon, and I am a director, actor, and educator in the Central Florida area.
We have reading for Antigone, Brittany Caldwell.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brittany. I am an actress and a writer. I live in San Diego, California. I did some work with the studio before I left Florida, so it's good to be back at the scene in the Villages virtually.
We're happy to have you. Ismene will be read by Rachel Camo.
Hey guys, it's Rachel. I'm an actor here in Orlando, Florida.
We have the Chorus of Senators read by Sarah Lockard.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Lockard. I'm an actor in Central Florida.
The Soldier and Eurydice read by Allison Johnson.
Hey everyone, I'm Allison. I'm an actor in Central Florida. Happy to be back.
Haman and the Messenger read by Mary Moreno.
Hi everyone, I'm an actor in Los Angeles, California. Good to be with you guys. Thanks so much.
And of course, we have Tiresias read by Patty McGuire.
Hello, everyone. I'm an actress in Central Florida.
Great. So that is our amazing cast. I'm so excited for you guys at home to hear them read this play and watch them perform for you. So please grab a drink, grab a snack, grab a friend, grab a pet, get comfortable, and please enjoy Antigone by Sophocles. Again, remember, we'll be having a talk back directly after this stream. It's about 5 minutes. We'll be right back to you and we'll be live for that talk back. Great. All right, actors, if I can have you please go to places and we'll get the show started. The scene is set outside the royal palace of Thebes. Enter Antigone and Ismene. Antigone looks around to be sure they cannot be overheard before speaking.
Ismene, listen. The same blood flows in our veins, doesn't it, my sister? The blood of Oedipus. And suffering, which was his destiny, is our punishment too. The sentence passed on all his children. Physical pain, contempt, insults, every kind of dishonor. We've seen them all and endured them all, the two of us. But there's more to come. Now, today, have you heard it? This new proclamation which the king has made to the whole city. Have you heard how those nearest to us are to be treated with contempt we reserved for traitors? People we love.
No one has told me anything, Antigone. I've heard nothing, neither good nor bad, about anyone we love. Not since the battle, I mean. And the terrible news that both our brothers are dead, one day, one battle, and fratricide twice over. Each brother cutting down his own flesh. But the army from Argos retreated last night. I have heard that. Nothing else to cheer me up or depress me further.
I thought you hadn't. That's why I asked you to meet me here, where I can tell you everything without risk of being overheard.
What is it then? More terrible news? Something black and frightening, I can see that.
Well, what do you think, Ismene? Perhaps you can guess. We have two brothers, both of them dead, and Creon has decreed that a decent burial should be given to one and not the other. Eteocles apparently has already been buried with full military honors and all the formalities due to the dead meticulously observed, so that his rest in the underworld among the heroes is assured. But Polynices, who died in agony just as certainly as his brother did, is not to be buried at all. The decree makes it quite plain. He is to be left lying where he fell, with no tears and no ceremonies of mourning, to stink in the open till the kites and vultures catch the scent and tear him to pieces and pick him to the bone. Left unburied, there is no rest for him in the underworld, no more than here. What a great king our Creon is, sister? It is against us, you realize, against me in particular, that he has published this decree. He'll soon be here himself to make it public to the senators and anyone who may not have heard it. He isn't bluffing. He means to act to make it stick. The punishment for anyone who disobeys the order is public stoning to death. So that's the news, and you know it now. The time has come for you two to stand up and be counted with me, and to show whether you are worthy of the honor of being Oedipus' daughter.
Wait a minute. Antigone, don't be so headstrong. If all this is as you say it is, what can I do, one way or the other?
Just say you will help me. Commit yourself.
To do what? Something dangerous?
Just give me a hand to lift the body. It's too heavy for me to lift on my own.
To bury him, you mean, in spite of the decree?
He is my brother, and like it or not, he's yours too. I won't betray him now that he's dead. No one will ever throw that in my face.
You must be mad. Creon has publicly forbidden it.
He can't forbid me to love my brother. He has neither the right nor the power to do that.
Have you forgotten what happened to our father? Contempt and loathing from everyone, even from himself. That was his reward. And blinded, too, by his own hand. And his mother-wife as ill-matched with him as those two words are with each other. She knotted a rope and hanged herself. And now, our two brothers both in one day caught in the same trap, claiming blood for blood and death for death, each one at the expense of the other. We are the last ones left, sister. And what a death is promised for us, more terrible than any if we break the law by defying the king and the power of the state. Think for a moment. Antigone, please. We are women, that's all, physically weaker and barred from any political influence. How can we fight against the institutionalized strength of the male sex? They are in power, and we have to obey them. This time, and maybe in worse situations than this. May God forgive me and the spirits of the dead. I have no choice. State power commands, and I must do as I am told. When you are powerless, wild gestures and heroic refusals are reserved for madmen.
Don't say any more. I won't ask again. In fact, if you were to offer help now, I would refuse it. Do as you please. I intend to bury my brother, and if I die in the attempt, I shall die in the knowledge that I have acted justly. What greater satisfaction than that for a loving sister to embrace a loving brother, even in the grave, and to begin condemned for the act of seeing him at peace? Our lives are short. We have too little time to waste it on men and the laws they make. The approval of the dead is everlasting, and I shall bask in it as I lie among them. Do as you please. Live by all means. The laws you break will not be of man's making.
I reverence them. But how can I defy the unlimited power of this state? What weapons of mine are strong enough for that?
Fine. That's a good excuse. I'll go and shovel the earth on my brother's body.
I'm frightened, Antigone. I'm frightened for you.
Don't be frightened for me. Fear for yourself.
For God's sake, keep it quiet. Don't tell anyone. I'll keep our meeting a secret.
Don't you dare. You must tell everybody. Shout it in the streets. If you keep it secret, I shall begin to hate you.
There's a fire burning in you, Antigone, and it makes me go cold just to hear you.
I'm not doing it to please you. It's for him.
This obsession will destroy you. You're certain to fail.
I shall fail when I have failed, not before.
But you know it's hopeless. Why begin when you know you can't possibly succeed?
Be quiet before I begin to despise you for talking so feebly. He will despise you too, and justly. You can go now. Go. If I'm mad, you can leave me here with my madness, which will doubtless destroy me soon enough. Death is the worst thing that can happen, and some deaths are more honorable than others.
If you've made your mind up, Antigone's madness. Remember, I love you. Whatever happens.
Exit Antigone and Ismene. Enter the chorus of the senators of Thebes.
The life-giving sun has never shone more brightly on the 7 gates of Thebes than he shines this morning. Never a more glorious dawning than this sunrise over Dersaces River, when the army of the foreign invader at first light made its panic-stricken flight, and all its white shields and its brilliant weapons were gone. Like a snowy eagle from the highest mountain crest it came, shrieking down on our city. The armies of Argos, with a spurious treaty to enforce Polynices' claim. And its horsehair plumes nodding together, and a grinding of brass, and a creaking of leather. By our 7 gates it waited, eyes glittering in dark helmets, swords drawn, spears couching. But before the killing and burning, the metallic taste of blood, and crashing stonework, and blazing wood, they turned and fled, the music of death in their ears. At their backs, the dragon's breath. Zeus had seen them, he who hates inflated pride and the empty boast of the windbag. He heard their singing as if the victory were theirs for the taking. And he brought down his thunder on their glittering host, struck them with lightning, and sent them flying, scorched them, burned them, and left them dying. Down like a rock from the mountain crest, he came thundering to earth. The flame dashed from his hand, the son of Thebes, whose best hope of fame was to conquer his native land, and who failed in his quest. For the war god gave us his word of command. Like a battled chariot, his terrible name ran them down where they stood, and they died in the dust. Now, at each of our 7 gates, a Theban defender waits, as 7 champions bring their fame and armor to the fight. And before the coming of night, 6 have put their fame to the test. 6 have laid both fame and armor to rest, as a tribute at great Zeus's feet. At the 7th gate, 2 brothers meet, sharing their blood in death as in birth, each striking together, each laying the other dead on the earth. There will be victory celebrations today in the city of charioteers and singing in the streets. There will be ceremonies of thanksgiving and grateful tears for the end of the fighting as the enemy retreats and the time comes for relaxation and play. Now, as all voices are raised and the drum beats, the ecstatic God himself will appear, Bacchus the drunkard, to take power for one day in the city he calls his own. Time to dance all night, to shake the foundations, till the faint light of dawn flushes the windows and the lamps fade. Now Creon is king. He made the most of his fortune and the god's choice. The son of Menoeceus, as the people rejoice, the new king enters to take his throne. The responsibility, his alone. But why has he called us here? To debate in emergency session his public proclamation so vital to the state.
Creon enters.
Senators, our country, like a ship at sea, has survived the hurricane. The gods who sent it have navigated us into calmer waters now. I have chosen to summon this assembly because I know I can trust you. Your predecessors were loyal and reliable in King Laius' time, and when King Oedipus, in his exceptional wisdom, restored the fortunes of the city, when tragedy struck him and his rule was ended, your loyalty to the blood royal was never questioned, and you supported his sons till they too were brought down in a single day, incestuously murdered, each brother shedding a brother's blood. By that same blood right, as next of kin, I claim the throne and all its power, both city and kingdom. I claim it and hold it from today as mine by right. There is no certain measure of man's quality, the depth of his intellect and the maturity of his judgment, until he is put to the supreme test by the exercise of lawful, powerful in the state. My own opinion is well known. The ruler who fears the consequences of his actions, or who is afraid to act openly or take the good advice of his senators, is beneath contempt. Equally contemptible is the man who puts the interest of his friends or his relations before his country. There's nothing good can be said of him. Let me make it plain before the gods, whose eyes are in every council chamber when I see any threat to this nation. From whatever direction, I shall make it public. No one who is an enemy of the state shall ever be any friend of mine. The state, the fatherland, is everything to us. The ship we all sail in. If she sinks, we all drown. And friendship drowns with us. That's my policy. A policy of service to the Commonwealth. And in pursuance of that policy, I have issued an official state decree concerning the sons of Oedipus. Eteocles, who died fighting for his country, and with exceptional bravery, we shall bury him with all the honors and funeral ceremonies customary for a man who died a hero. The other, the outcast, the exile, his brother, Polynices, who returned here at the head of a foreign army to destroy his homeland, to burn down the city and reduce the people to a condition of slavery or kill them in the streets. I have ordered that he is to have no grave at all. No one is to bury him or mourn for him. His body is to be left in the open, uncovered, a stinking feast for the scavengers. Dogs and crows, a sight to inspire terror. I intend to make it quite plain that never, under any administration, will people who commit crimes against the state reap any benefit from their actions, and at the expense of honest, decent citizens too. But people who serve the state, alive or dead, that makes no difference. I shall honor them for their patriotism.
Son of Menasius, you are king now. You have delivered your verdict and sentence upon the man who defended the city and the man who attacked it, unambiguously. The full power of the law is in your hands, and it binds the dead as well as the living. We are at your disposal.
Make sure, then, that my orders are carried out.
Younger men than us should implement your policies.
I don't mean that. Polynices' body is already under guard.
What else must we do? What other responsibility would you lay upon us?
Not to intrigue with dissidents or subversive elements.
We are not mad, sir. We know the law. and the penalty for breaking it.
Which will be death. And be in no doubt I shall enforce it, because there are always men who can be bought, who will risk anything, even death, if the bribe is large enough.
Enter a soldier.
My lord Creon, sir, if I can hardly speak for lack of breath, it's not because I ran. I kept on stopping, as a matter of fact, half a dozen times, and I hung about as much as I dared. I haven't thought about anything so much for a long time. Listen, don't hurry, I said to myself. The chances are, poor sod, you'll cop it when you get there. But then I said to myself, you see, hang about, I said, or rather don't, because if Creon hears this from somebody else, oh, you're really in trouble. So I hurried here as slow as I could, and going round and round in circles in my head as well as with my feet. It's funny how long a mile can take you when you're thinking what I was thinking. However, duty called in the end, and I reckoned it would be safer to face it out. It may be unimportant, but I've come here. So now I'll tell you, if I be punished for it, the gods will be behind it, that's for sure. So I wouldn't have escaped it anyway.
Talk sense, man. Why are you frightened?
Well, first of all, sir, for myself, my own point of view, I never done it. And I didn't see who else done it neither. So I shouldn't be punished for it, should I?
Is there any need for all this preamble? You take great care to disassociate yourself from what you say. It must be bad news.
Oh, it is bad news, sir. And I'm so scared. I don't know how to put it for the best.
The plainest way, and then we can have done with you.
Straight out with it, then. The body's buried. Someone or other, a handful of dust, that's all dry dust, but properly sprinkled, religiously, and then gone, whoever it was.
Do you know what you're saying? Who has dared to disobey my orders?
No way of knowing, sir. We've no idea. There had been no digging, no spade marks or nothing. The ground's rock hard. No wheel tracks either from a chariot or cart or anything. In fact, no clues of any kind at all. Nothing to tell you who might have done it. When the sentry taking the early turn discovered what had happened and reported back, we were all shattered and scared stiff. It was as though the body had disappeared. Not buried in a proper grave, I don't mean, but lightly covered with a layer of earth, almost as though some passing stranger with a religious turn of mind, knowing that being left unburied means everlasting anguish and wandering without rest, had scattered a few handfuls. There was no tracks of animals either, not of dogs or anything who might have gnawed at it and covered it over with their front legs like they do a bone. A real row started then, I can tell you. We shouted at each other, and it could have been a fight. There was no one there to stop us. Any one of us could have done it. We all suspected each other. But we all denied it, and there was no evidence to prove one man guilty rather than another. So we all dared each other to swear, to go through fire and water, to hold red-hot pokers in our hands and call all the gods and witnesses that we hadn't done it and didn't know anyone who had done it or would even think of it, let alone do it. And none of it got us anywhere. Then one of the fellows had his say, and he scared us all shitless, I can tell you. He said, and we knew he was dead right, that there was no way out of it. We had to do it and take our chances. This fellow said, one of us lot must tell the king, because we can't just hide it, can we? That's what he said, and we knew he was right, so we decided we'd have to draw lots, and just my luck, I drew the short straw. So here I am. And I don't like telling it one little bit more than you like hearing it. The bloke who brings bad news never gets a medal.
My lord Creon, this policy of yours has me worried from the start. My political instinct tells me this may be some sort of warning or sign, and perhaps from the gods.
How dare you? Shut your mouths, all of you, before I lose my temper. And you, if you are a superannuated fool, at least don't talk like one. Is it likely, remotely likely, that the gods will think twice over the pile of stinking meat By God, it's blasphemy even to suggest that they would care a damn whether he was buried or not, let alone grant him an honorable funeral as though he were one of their principal supporters. The man who came to burn down their temples, plunder their treasuries, pull down their statues, and bring destruction and contempt for their land and its laws? Do the gods love criminals these days? Oh no, they do not. But gentlemen, there are men in this city, and I have noted them. A subversive faction, enemies of the state, a cell of oppositionists, call them what you will, who reject the law and my leadership. They meet in secret and nod and whisper their seditious talk. And they are behind this. Any fool can see that. Their bribery has suborned my soldiers and paid for this demonstration against my authority. Money, gentlemen, money. The virus that infects mankind with every sickness we have a name for. No greater scourge than that. Money it is that pounds great cities to piles of rubble, turns people by the millions into homeless refugees, takes homeless citizens and corrupts them into doing things they would be ashamed to think of. Before the fee was mentioned until there's no crime that can't be bought, and in the end brings them into the execution chamber. Well, whoever they are, these men who have sold themselves, they'll find the price considerably higher than they thought it was. You, come here. Get this into your head. By Zeus, my God, whose power I revere, I swear to you, soldier, that either you will find the man who buried Polynices' body in defiance of my express command and bring him here. The actual man who sprinkled the earth, no other will do, standing here in front of me, or you, soldier, will die for it. And death, I promise you, will be the least of your punishments. Crimes against the state and its laws, you'll find, are very unprofitable in the end.
Am I allowed to speak, sir?
No. Why should you speak? Every word you say is painful to me.
It can't be earache, can it, sir? Not what I said. It must stick in your gullet, or further down, maybe sort of a pain in the conscience.
Do you dare to answer me back? And make jokes about my conscience?
Me? Sir, no, sir. I might give you earache, I can see that. I talk too much, always have done. But the other pain, the heartburn, as it were, it's the criminal causing that, sir, not me.
You're not short of a quick answer, either.
Maybe not. But I didn't bury the body. Not guilty to that, sir.
But maybe guilty of selling your eyes for money, eh, Sentry? Of looking the other way for cash?
I think it's a shame, sir, that an intelligent man and as well educated as you are should miss the point so completely.
I'm not interested in your opinions. If you fail to find this enemy of the state and bring him here to me, you'll learn that money, from whatever source, will certainly not save your life.
Let's hope they find him, whoever he is. But one thing I'm sure of, they won't find me. I never thought I'd get out of here alive, and when I do get out, nothing will bring me back again. I've had an amazing stroke of luck, and I won't chance my arm a second time.
Is there anything more wonderful on earth or a marvelous planet than the miracle of man? With what arrogant ease he rides the dangerous seas, from the waves' towering summit to the yawning trough beneath. The Earth Mother herself, before time began, the eldest of our ageless gods, learned to endure his driving plow, turning the earth and breaking the clods, till, by the sweat of his brow, she yielded up her fruitfulness. The quick-witted birds are no match for him, neither victim nor predator among the beasts of the plain, nor the sea's seething masses. His cunning surpasses their instinct, his skill the greater. His snares never fail, and his nets teem. The wild bull of the savage mountain and the magnificent stag who passes like a king through upland and glen, the untamed horse with his matted tresses uncut on his neck, all submit to man and the yoke and the bit, and his power increases. He has mastered the mysteries of language and thought, which moves faster than the wind. He has tamed and made rational. Political wisdom, too, all the knowledge of people and states, all the practical arts of government he has studied and refined, built cities to shelter his head against rain and danger and cold, and ordered all things in his mind. There is no problem he cannot resolve by the exercise of his brains or his breath, and the only disease he cannot salve or cure is death. In action, he is subtle beyond imagination, limitless in his skill, and these gifts are both enemies and friends, as he applies them with equal determination to good or to evil ends. All men honor, and the state uplifts the man to the heights of glory, whose powers uphold the Constitution and the gods and their laws. His city prospers. But if he shifts his ground and takes the wrong path, despising morality and blown up with pride, indulges himself and his power, at my hearth may he never warm himself or sit by my side.
Antigone is brought in by the guards. The soldier is with her.
But wait, I can't believe my eyes. Can this be true? This is Antigone. I recognize her as clearly as I see you. Her father's destiny was suffering and pain, and on all his progeny, misfortune's reign. Child, did you openly disobey the new king's order and bury your brother? Do you have to manhandle her in this way?
We saw it. Actually burying the body. Caught him in the act, as they say, red-handed. Only it's not him, it's her. Where's the king?
Just returning now, and when he's most needed.
What's all the noise? By the look of things, I'm here not a moment too soon. What has happened?
Lord Creon, I reckon it's always unwise to swear oaths and make promises, even to yourself. Second thoughts, 9 times out of 10, will have their way and end up calling you a liar. It's no time at all, since I promised myself I wouldn't be seen dead here again. You were that angry with me last time. A right mouthful you gave me, more than enough, thank you very much. But you can't beat a real turn-up for the book, can you? There's nothing more enjoyable than a good win when you're expecting a tousing. So, here I am again, as the comic said, and my promises not worth the air they were spoken with. This girl's your criminal. We caught her doing it, actually setting the grave to rights. I brought her here, and there was no panic this time. I can tell you, no recrimination or drawing lots. The job was all mine. I caught her, and I claim the credit for it. And now she's all yours. Take her and accuse her, stone her to death if you like. By rights, I'm free to go, and well shot of all of it.
Where did you arrest her? Tell me the details.
She was burying him. What else is there to say?
Are you out of your mind? Do you realize the implications of what you are saying?
Sir, she was burying the body. I saw her. The body you ordered not to be buried. I can't speak plainer than that.
Did you catch her in the act? Did you see her doing it?
Well, gentlemen, it was like this. As soon as I got back, remembering all those threats, promises you made me, we brushed all the earth off the naked body, which was all wet and beginning to decay by now, and we sat up on the ridge, well to the windward of the stink. We all kept a sharp eye on each other, ready to nudge anyone who dropped off and tear him off a strip, too. For hours we sat there till about midday. The sun was smack overhead, blazing down, and the heat was something terrible, I tell you. And then it was though a whirlwind blew up. Definitely a twister it was, but localized. And it raised up a dust storm which swept across the plain, tore all the leaves off the trees, blotted out the whole sky, and completely blinded us. It seemed like some terrible manifestation of the gods, and you had to shut your eyes to endure it at all. Then suddenly it stopped, and the air cleared. We opened our eyes and saw this girl standing there beside the grave and sort of wailing as though she were in pain or maybe anger, just like a bird who comes back to the nest and finds the eggs smashed or the fledglings gone. That's what it sounded like. She was standing there looking at the naked body and screaming and cursing the monsters who had done such a thing. Us, of course. And then she crouched down and picked up a few handfuls of the dry dust and scattered it on him. She carried an urn, a small ceremonial bronze thing, and she poured from it 3 times on the dead body, honey and wine and stuff in it, I suppose. All the proper ritual for a funeral, anyway. As soon as we saw that, we came charging down and arrested her on the spot. She wasn't frightened or anything. She stood her ground. So then we formally charged her with the crime, this and the one before. She admitted she'd done them both, and we were relieved to hear that, I can tell you. But sorry, too, at the same time. It's very nice to get out of trouble yourself, but not so nice when you drop someone else up to the neck in it, someone you've got no quarrel with. But still, your own life comes first, I reckon. You have to look out for number 1.
And you? You with your head down? What do you say to this accusation? Do you admit it? Are you guilty or not?
Yes, I'm guilty. I don't pretend otherwise.
You, soldier, get out. You're cleared of all charges against you and free to go back to your unit. Now tell me a simple yes or no. Did you hear of my order forbidding the burial?
Of course I heard it. How could I not?
And yet you dared to disobey the law.
Yes, I did. Because it's your law, not the law of God. Natural justice, which is of all times and places, numinous, not material, a quality of Zeus, not of kings, recognizes no such law. You are merely a man, mortal like me, and laws that you enact cannot overturn ancient moralities or common human decency. They speak the language of eternity, are not written down, and never change. They are for today, yesterday, and all time. No one understands where they came from, but everyone recognizes their force, and no man's arrogance or power can make me disobey them. I would rather suffer the disapproval and punishment of men than dishonor such ancient truths. I shall die, of course, sometime, whether you make laws or not. If my death comes sooner rather than later, I shall welcome it. My life has been misery, is misery now. I shall be happy to leave it. There will be no pain and no despair in that. But to leave my mother's son out there in the open, unburied, that would have been unendurable. I could not have borne it. Whereas this I shall endure. By your judgment, of course, I'm a fool. But by mine, it's the judge, not the accused, who's behaving foolishly.
This is her father speaking. Stubborn, like him. She won't give way. Not even with the whole power of the state against her.
Well, we shall see. Any man can be broken, and often the most committed and determined break soonest. This woman is very proud. That was obvious in the first place when she broke the law and is even clearer now. She glories in the crime she has committed and insults me to my face, as well as ignoring my decree. If she is allowed to flout the law in this way, all authority in the state will collapse. I will not have that. There will be no exchanging of roles here. Me playing the woman while she plays the king. She is my niece, my sister's child, but I am the law. And that responsibility is above kinship. Were she even closer, the closest, my own daughter, my duty would be plain. The law has its weapons and they will strike at her and at her sister too. Her accomplice, I've no doubt, in this illegal act, to the fullest extent of the punishment prescribed. The other one, Simone, bring her here. I saw her in the corridor talking to herself and sobbing emotionally like a mad woman. Guilty consciences, you see, can never be hidden completely. The human face reveals conspiracies before they are enacted again and again. But there is nothing more disgusting than the confessed criminal who tries to justify his actions, as this woman has done here today.
What do you want? Kill me and have done with it.
Nothing more than your death. That'll be enough.
Then what are you waiting for? Nothing you say will be of the slightest interest to me, and my arguments you will not listen to. I've done what I said I'd do. I've buried my brother. I aspire to no greater honor, and if I'm to be famous, let it be for that. All these senators of yours, they all agree with me in their hearts. But there is no gag like terror, is there, gentlemen? And tyrants will have their way, both in word and in action. That's their privilege.
You are quite mistaken. None of the Thebans anywhere in the city thinks as you do.
They all do, but they keep their mouths shut when you're here.
Not at all. And you should be ashamed setting yourself up against the majority, disregarding the will of the people.
I love my brother. I honor him dead as I loved him living. There is no shame in that.
And the one he murdered, wasn't he your brother?
My mother bore them both, and I loved them both.
If you honor one, you insult the other.
Neither of those dead men would say that.
Eteocles would. His brother was a traitor. Does he merit no greater respect than that?
But he was not an animal. They both died together, and they were both men.
Yes, and the one died defending his country while the other traitorously attacked it.
The dead have their rights, and we have our duties toward them, dictated by common decency.
And if good and bad are to be honored equally, where are our values? Patriotism, civic duty.
Death is another country. Such things may not be valued there, may even be crimes.
An enemy is still an enemy, dead or alive.
No, I was born with enough love to share. No hate for anyone.
Very well. Share your love, by all means. Share it with the dead. I wish them well of it. Women must learn to obey as well as men. They can have no special treatment. Law is law and will remain so while I am alive, and no woman will get the better of me.
Ismene is brought in under guard.
Look, senators, Ismene, weeping for her sister. Her face is raw with tears, flayed with misery. Her loveliness is scarred now. This disaster darkens her fair skin with premonitions and fears, and flushes her cheeks with anguish, not beauty.
And you, snake, slithering silently about my house to drink my blood in secret? Both of you the same. I looked the other way, and like terrorists, you laid undercover plans to destroy me. Well, do you, too, confess your complicity in this crime? Or protest your innocence?
Yes, I confess. If she will allow me to say so, I was fully involved, and if she is guilty, so am I.
No, that isn't justice. When I asked you for help, you refused me. So I told you I didn't want you, and I'd do it alone.
But you now are in danger, Antigone. I am proud to stand beside you in the dock.
The dead man knows who buried him. What use are people who are all words and no action?
Please, my sister, don't despise me. Let me share the honor and die with you.
You've no right to claim the honor for doing what you were too afraid to do. One death will be enough. Why should you die?
Because life without you won't be worth living.
Ask Creon to protect you. He's your uncle.
Do I deserve such contempt? Do you enjoy making fun of me, sneering at my misery?
You're right. It's a reflection of my own pain if such bitter pleasures are all I have left.
Let me help you then. It's not too late.
Save your own life. Do that for yourself without any criticism from me or envy.
For God's sake, Antigone, will you not allow me even to share my death with my sister?
No, I won't. You chose to live when I chose to die, and that's the end of it.
But I wasn't afraid to speak. I warned you. This is what would happen. I knew how it would be.
And the majority would agree with you, but some would be of my opinion.
But we're both in the wrong, and both condemned.
No, you must live. I've been dead for a long time. Inwardly, I'm well suited to pay honor to the dead and die for it.
These women are neurotic lunatics, both of them. One of them going off her head before our eyes, and the other one unbalanced.
Well, are you surprised? Anyone would crack, the most tough-minded person under such treatment.
You lost your senses when you allowed yourself to be influenced by her lunacy.
There's no life for me here. Not without my sister.
Don't speak of her. She's as good as dead.
Will you kill the woman your son plans to marry?
There are other women. No lack of choice for a young man, other fields to plow.
But they're devoted to each other. You can't change love as you change your clothes.
No son of mine may marry a criminal.
Oh, hey, man. When you hear how your father insults you.
Let him hear. What does his mistress matter to me?
Lord Creon, you insult your own. They are formally betrothed. Will you tear the woman from your own son's arms?
Death parts all lovers, sooner or later.
If that's how the land lies, the poor child's doomed. Her death warrant is sealed and delivered.
By you, gentlemen, if you remember, as well as by me. You heard the order, agreed it with me, if only by your silence. Did you not before the criminal was known? We'll have no more shilly-shallying. Take them away, lock them up, and keep them under close guard. It's time they understood they are women. And their proper place in this society, there's nothing like the immediate threat of death to soften up their rhetoric and make them look reality in the face.
Ismene and Antigone are dragged away by the guards.
They can call themselves lucky, the fortunate few, who live their lives through, never drinking from the bitter cup of pain. But when one unlucky family incurs the gods' malignity, from generation to generation, they must swallow the bitter potion again, and then again. The cold hands of the dead reach out for the living, and no one is spared. Another generation sheds its blood. New light is snuffed out, the young root bared for the same bloody axe. The characteristic sin of Oedipus, arrogance, brings its bleak harvest in. But all men hope, and some have ambition, far-ranging birds that never tire. Those wings bear some men steadily onward, but some others aimlessly swoop and glide down to frivolous pastures, landscapes of obsession, pathways to disaster and the merciless fire. and no man can claim to have understood hope or ambition till the flames burn under his feet and the once solid wood of his life is reduced to its last condition, ashes and dust. A wise man said, from out of the depths of his inspiration, when a man commits crimes and is proud of the action, a flaming sword hangs over his head, no future but the grave, and a funeral urn. Creon, here comes your youngest son. Is he desperate with grief that his future bride should be so brutally denied and all his hopes of happiness gone? For the last of your sons, what relief from his consuming fears and the bitter penance of his tears? Does he come to beg for mercy for his beloved Antigone?
We shall know that from his own lips without any need of fortune tellers.
Haman enters.
My dear son, I don't doubt you have heard the news of our final decision, the condemnation of the woman you intended to marry. You come here, I hope, not in any spirit of anger against your father, but understanding that we are always comrades, and my love for you is unshaken.
I know I am your son, Father. I understand the depth of your experience in matters of state. I try to follow and benefit from it whenever I can. Any marriage would be worthless to me that did not have your approval and love.
Good fellow. Hang on to that. A father's opinion should always be influential with his son. And fathers with young sons, when they pray for them, ask especially that they should grow up to be loyal, obedient, under pressure the first to strike at their father's enemies, just as they are the first to support his friends. Don't be taken in, boy. Don't let any woman ensnare you by exploiting her sexuality or any of the attractions that lure infatuated men into submission. God help the lovesick fool who marries a dominating woman. Passion never lasts, and a cold bedroom breeds cold hearts, anger and bitterness, for there's no hatred so violent as the hatred of two people who were once in love. Get rid of her, my boy. This girl's an enemy, no good to you or your best interests. Spit her out like poison. Let her find herself a husband that suits her among the dead. Don't deceive yourself. She has been openly apprehended performing a criminal act against the state. She is a confessed traitor, and if I were to spare her life, I too would betray the state and its law and everything I stand for. I will not do it, and she must die. Let her pray to Zeus till she drops. Let her assert she stands for family love and ancient virtues and all the rest of it. If I tolerate treachery in my own house under my very nose, how can I crush subversion anywhere else in the city or in the state at large? A man who rules wisely within his own family is more likely to make sensible judgments in political matters in his direction of the state. To pervert the law, to twist it to serve one's own ends or the interest of one's relations that cannot be allowed, neither in states nor in families, and will not be allowed by me in any circumstance. Indiscipline, anarchy, disobedience. What greater scourge than that from humankind? States collapse from within. Cities are blown to rubble. Efficient armies are disorganized. And potential victory turned to disaster and carnage, and all by disobedience. Anarchy, indiscipline. Whereas the well-drilled regiment that asks no questions stands firm, knows nothing, and needs to know nothing, and wins, thus saving lives of millions of honest people. Authority is essential in any state and will be upheld in this one by me. There will be no yielding to female fantasies, not by so much as an inch. And if we must be deposed, let it be by a man's hand, eh, son? Not by a conspiracy of women.
Lord Creon, you have spoken rationally, sensibly, and with the wisdom gathered from long experience.
Father, the most enviable of man's gifts is the ability to reason clearly. And it's not for me to say that you are wrong, even if I were clever enough or experienced enough, which I'm not. But it's also true to say that some men think differently about these things. And as your son, my most useful function, it seems to me, is to keep you in touch with what other people are thinking, what they say and do and approve or disapprove of, and sometimes what they leave unsaid. The prospect of your disapproval is a great silencer of most men's tongues, and some things are never said for fear of the consequences. But I can sometimes hear what people whisper behind their hands. And everywhere, I hear sympathy expressed for this unfortunate girl, condemned as she is to a horrifying death that no woman has ever suffered before, and unjustly in most people's eyes. In burying her brother, who was killed in action, she did something most people consider decent and honorable. Rather than leaving him naked on the battlefield for the dogs to tear at and the kites and scavengers to pick to the bone, she should be given a medal for it, some people say, and her name inscribed on the roll of honor. Such things are whispered in secret, Father, and they have reached my ears. Sir, your reputation matters to me as much as your good health and happiness do. Indeed, your good reputation matters more. What can a loving son be more jealous of than his father's reputation? And what could please a father more than to see his son's concern that the people think well of him? Then let me beg of you to have second thoughts and not be certain that your own opinion is the only right one and that all men share it. A man who thinks he has the monopoly of wisdom and that only what he says and what he thinks is of any relevance reveals his own shallowness of mind with every word that he says. The man of judgment knows that it's a sign of strength and not weakness to value others' opinions and to learn from them, and when he's wrong, to admit it and to openly change his mind. You see it when the river floods. The trees that bend survive, and those whose trunks are inflexible are snapped off short by the weight of the water. And the sailor in a storm who refuses to reef his sail and run with the wind is likely to end up capsized. I beg you, Father, think twice about this. Don't let your anger influence you. If a man of my age may lay some small claim to any common sense, let me say this: absolute certainty is fine if a man can be certain that his wisdom is absolute. But such certainty and such wisdom is rare among men. And that being so, the next best is to learn, to listen, and to take good advice when it's offered.
There's a lot of sense, my Lord Creon, in what this young man has said. And indeed, there was in everything that you said too. The fact is, you are both in the right, and there's a good deal to be said for either.
Is there indeed? Am I expected to listen and take lessons in political tactics at my age from a mere boy?
I am a man, Father, and my arguments are just. They stand upon their merits, not my age.
Oh, they stand upon their merits, do they? What merit is there, please tell me, in breaking the law?
If she had done something shameful, I wouldn't defend her.
She has brought the law into contempt. That's shameful.
Listen to the people in the street, Father. The ordinary Thebans, they say she hasn't.
I have never based my political principles on the opinions of people in the street.
Now you're the one who's speaking like a boy.
I'm speaking like a king. It's my responsibility, and I will act according to my own convictions.
Well, when the state becomes one man, it ceases to be a state.
The state is the statesman who rules it. It reflects his judgment. It belongs to him.
Go rule in the desert, then. There's nobody there to argue with you. What a king you'll be there.
This boy of mine is on the woman's side.
Yes, if you are a woman, I am. I am on your side, Father. I'm fighting for you.
You damned impertinent devil. Every word you say is against me. Your own father.
When I know you are wrong, I have to speak.
How am I wrong? By maintaining my position and the authority of the state? Is that wrong?
When the position and authority ride roughshod over moral feeling.
You're weak and uxorious and contemptible with no will of your own. You're a woman's mouthpiece.
I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying.
Every word you have said pleads for her cause.
I plead for you and for myself and for common humanity, respect for the dead.
You will never marry that woman. She won't live long enough to see that day.
If she dies, she won't die alone. There'll be 2 deaths, not 1.
Are you threatening me? How dare you threaten me?
That's not a threat. I'm telling you, your policy was misbegotten from the beginning.
Misbegotten? Dear God, if anything's misbegotten here, it's my son. You'll regret this, I promise you.
If you weren't my father, I'd say you were demented.
Don't father me. You're a woman's plaything. A tame lapdog.
Is anyone else allowed to speak? Must you have the last word in everything? Must all the rest of us be gagged?
I must, and I will. And you, I promise you will regret what you have spoken here today. I will not be sneered at or contradicted by anyone. Sons can be punished too. Bring her out, the bitch. Let her die here and now, in the open, with her bridegroom beside her. As a witness, you can watch the execution.
That is one sight I shall never see. Nor from this moment, Father, will you ever see me again. Those that wish to stay and watch this disgusting spectacle in the company of a madman, you are welcome to it.
Lord Creon, an uncontrollable fury has possessed your son and swept him off like a whirlwind. A young man's anger is a terrifying thing.
Let him go and shout his head off about moral this and decent that till he raves himself senseless. The 2 women are sentenced. It will take more than bluster to reprieve them, I promise you.
Both of them, sir? You mean to put both of the sisters to death?
No. You are right. I can take advice. The one who covered the body, not the other.
And for the condemned one? What manner of death?
Take her to some lonely place, rocky and unfrequented by anyone. Find a cave and wall her up in it. Bury her alive, but with just enough food so that no guilt for her death will fall either upon us or the state. She'll have plenty of time to honor the gods of the dead there, since they receive so many of her prayers. They will release her, and she will learn that worshiping the dead is not the business of the living.
When the god of unbridled passion makes war, he always wins. No force on earth can withstand his powerful, merciless hand. When the first flowers appear in a young girl's cheek, the remorseless magic begins. And then, from the deepest valley to the highest peak, his traps are set, and no man's sins or virtues can keep him from the net. This mania is universal. The gods themselves run mad. Men lose their wits, and no one is spared. When the madness strikes, no one is safe. The maturest of men will commit follies and crimes undreamed of in saner times. What else could provoke this strife between father and son, this family divided, and murderous anger between kin? There is fire in a woman's eye. Incited by such consuming heat, a man's mind can burn. Aphrodite shares power with Zeus. Her seat is at his right hand. Her lightning strikes to the heart, and its power is frightening.
The doors open and Antigone enters, heavily guarded. She is dressed in a plain white gown.
Yet how can we talk of justice and the needs of the state while we stand and watch this unendurable sight? My eyes will have their way and weep, seeing Antigone like a young bride going to her bedchamber to marry the dead and share their everlasting sleep.
In all my wanderings, gentlemen, this place has been my home. I was born in this city, and now I begin my last journey. I look up at the sun in its familiar sky and feel its warmth on my face only to say goodbye. In the daytime of my life, in the mid-breath, this security policeman, Death, arrests me as he arrests everyone, young and old, at home or in the street. To the cold water of darkness we come, never to return across the silent river. No wedding for me. No music, no guests in the room. My wedding gift is eternity in a stone tomb. My dowry forever not to be, death my bridegroom.
But your action is famous. In every street, mouths whisper, Antigone. You go down to the dead with the promise of glory ringing in your head, and nothing to devalue your beauty. No sword has scarred you, plague visited. Unmarked, untouched, you pass from the dangerous light into the safety of eternal light, alive, alone, and free.
Do you remember the sad story of Tantalus' daughter? She was a stranger from Phrygia, unmarried like me, in danger like mine. She was sentenced to die on the rock of Syphilis, and there was no glory for her, only the endless shock of the elements and the terrible place where she was imprisoned. The mountains embrace like fingers of ivy, tying her down, enclosing, entombing her, and she all alone while the snows blinded her and the freezing rain whipped her to rags and exposed her pain to the naked sky. What bitter tears she shed as she slowly turned to stone, and the gray rock petrified by her inches, and she died. Her story is mine. Today I shall share her rocky bed.
But she was a goddess, not born for death like the children of men, whose desperate mortality is their only certainty. Will it soothe your pain to share her destiny, or soften your distress, as alive in the earth you draw your last breath to live on in legend and stone?
This is a mockery. By everything the city of our fathers has ever held sacred, you landowners, you elder statesmen, you rulers of Thebes, my dying is no joke. Am I a figure of fun to be treated like a child, insulted and humiliated as I leave you forever? Then forests and meadows and our Theban river, glittering pathways ceaselessly flowing from Dirce's death till now, flatlands thundering beneath our chariots. You must be my witnesses, my only friends and mourners, as victimized by an unjust law, I go to my last home in the living tomb to wait while the slow darkness descends, cold and starving on my stony bed, halfway between the living and the dead.
No one has ever dared to go so far before as you have dared to go. Now you have stumbled and stubbed your toe and will shortly shed your blood on the marble staircase of the law. You carry your father's crimes like a millstone on your back. Small wonder, in such times, if the bones bend or break.
Nothing more painful than that. The remembrance of my father's long agony.
in the curse on my suffering family from the beginning. So much grief from the unlucky chance of the son finding the mother's bed, and worse than anything, the benighted offspring of that unspeakable marriage. And I, with the others, share that terrible destiny. Conceived in incest, no repentance can soften the punishment. The years pass, the agonies increase, and there's no pity for our tears. No marriage for me, for certain. I shall close that book forever as I meet my father and mother in the shades. The weddings will cease. Marriage to the woman of Argos finished my brother and finished me too. One death breeds another.
To pay respect to the dead is praiseworthy, an act of love, and religion must have its due. But no civilized state can eschew authority. Laws must be obeyed, whether we approve or disapprove. If you refuse to sanction the power of the state by indulging in your obsession, you connive at your own fate.
Spare me your sympathy. Weep no false tears. I know the path that I must follow to the sunless country of eternal sorrow, the bleak waters of eternity, the unimaginable years. No grief where none is felt. I shall go alone and in silence to my house of stone.
Enter Creon.
If death could be prevented by singing arias about it or other self-indulgent displays of grief, this performance would go on forever, I've no doubt. But I've had enough of it. Take her away, lock her up in her stone vault with half a mountain for a roof, then brick up the door. Let her die there if she chooses. Or if she prefers, let her stay alive in her grave. Why not? Because the grave's the only fit place for her. Solitary confinement among the dead. Whatever she does, there will be no guilt on me or on the state. Her death's her own, but there's no place for her among the living.
To my grave, then, my honeymoon bed, my prison, my crypt under the mountain, my home for the rest of time. I shall meet so many of my relations there. We shall all be guests of the same sad-faced queen of the shadows, Persephone, in that bleak hotel that is never short of a room. I am the last, the unhappiest, I think, and the youngest, booking in too soon. But my father will be there to meet me at the door. My mother will smile and hug me close as she always did. And my brother, he will be glad to see me more than all the rest. At each fresh grave, my hands sprinkled the earth. At each I poured the purifying water and made offerings. And for my beloved Polynices, whose broken body I set to rest, I am rewarded with a shameful death. There are some, I know, more thoughtful people who respect my action. They must justify me. Not for a husband, you understand, not even for a son would I have done this. If the law had forbidden it, I would have bowed my head and let them rot. Does that make sense? I could have married again, another husband, and had more children by him if the first had died. Do you understand me? But my mother and father are dead. There will be no more brothers, never again. My love had to speak at Polynices' grave or nowhere. And for that terrible crime, my dearest brother, Creon sentences me to death, drags me here, and will shut me away in a cavern under a mountain, a living death, in a silent, dark solitude. I shall die unmarried, and all the pleasures denied me. And motherhood denied too. No children to love me, to love. And now, no friends. What moral law have I broken? What eternal truths have I denied? Yet now even a God can help me, and there's no man who will. I'm sure of that. No help and no hope. How can there be when common decency has become a crime? If the gods in heaven have changed their minds, and this is the way they order things now, I shall soon know it, and I shall have learned my lesson the hard way. But if some others are mistaken, let them be punished as I have been punished, and suffer the injustice that I suffer.
She hasn't changed. Even now, the anger inside her still blows like a hurricane.
The sooner she's got rid of, shut up out of harm's way, and forgotten, the better. Tell those guards to get a move on, or they will regret it.
That word is my death.
And now it is spoken. Don't comfort yourself with hope. There is none.
This is the land of my fathers, Thebes, built by a god. You see, senators, my time has run out. There is no more left. I am the last of a royal blood, a daughter of kings, and I die his victim, unjustly, for upholding justice and the humanity of humankind.
Antigone is led away by the guards.
Others have suffered too, my child, like you. Upon Danae, too, the same dreadful sentence was passed. Far from the light of day, in a tower of brass, she was shut away. And that one single room, both prison and tomb, became her wedding chamber at last. Like you, she was a child of kings. Yet in her womb, the semen of Zeus, descending in a golden shower, made a mockery of that brazen tower. Fate has its own momentum. When things must be, they will be. What use is power in the state, or wealth, massive armies, an unsinkable fleet? Gods make their entrances by strength or stealth, and no tombs or towers can keep them out. The arrogant king Lycurgus discovered wisdom when he angered the god Dionysus with his railing. That proud Edonian king was punished with madness and long imprisoned in a rocky cell to endure the private and particular hell of lunacy. To the healing silence soothed and reordered his brain. He learned there the terrible power of the god he had challenged. Ecstasy is beyond man's understanding, a mystery deeper than reason, which overcomes pain and seeks truth in intoxication and terror. Only a fool would attempt to stop the maenads in full flight or silence their ecstatic singing. The sleep of reason is not darkness, but another kind of light. And where the gloomy rocks divide the seas in Thrace, by the Bosporus, the savage god Ares laughed to see the sons of Phineus blinded with a spindle. Nothing could placate their vengeful stepmother's hate. Her bloody needle darkened their eyes forever, blinding the children as the gods had blinded the father. From their mother's wedding day, their destiny was settled. Their wasted lives they wept away in sightless misery. Yet she was descended from the gods. In the echoing caves of the north, she hallooed as a child, and on the open mountainside ran wild with the horses. Man's fate is determined, will not be denied. The child Antigone pays for the parents' pride.
Enter the blind man, Tiresias, accompanied by his boy. He looks exactly as he did in Oedipus the King. Nothing has changed, either in age or dress or manner.
Senators of Thebes, and your new king, Creon. We have traveled together, my boy and I, sharing one pair of eyes between the two of us, which is the way blind men must make their journeys.
Tiresias, what news brings an old man so far?
Important news that can't wait. And advice, which, if you're wise, you'll listen to.
I've always listened and acted upon it more than once.
And like a sensible captain who values his pilot, you've avoided the rocks.
I admit it. We all do. We're in your debt.
Then for God's sake, listen to me now. You're like a man balanced on a razor, likely to fall or cut himself to pieces.
Are you serious? Any man would shudder hearing such things from your lips that have foretold so many horrors. Tell me what you mean.
Oh, yes, I intend to. Everything my experience of forecasting the future and understanding symbols has revealed to me, I will make plain to you. I was sitting in my usual seat, a place where I can hear the singing and the secret language of the birds and understand their meaning. Oh, when I heard, quite unexpectedly, a terrible new sound, like shrieking or cries of anguish, hysterical twittering and whistling, like the babble of a barbaric language only capable of expressing hatred or pain. By that, and the wild beating of wings, I knew the birds were at war. Such sounds could mean nothing else. I could well imagine their blood-stained beaks and dripping claws, and that thought disturbed me deeply. At once, I went to my altar to see what I could learn from the sacrifice by fire. But nothing would burn. A filthy liquid ran from the flesh and dropped on the embers and sizzled and bubbled among the ashes. Then the gallbladder burst, spurting stinking acid across the meat, and all the fat melted and was rendered down till the bone was left bare. I saw all this, or my boy saw it. He sees for me what my eyes cannot, just as I see things to which other people are blind. But in that filth I read nothing. The oracle was clogged with fat and decay. And then it was revealed. I understood that you, King Creon, have decreed this filth that chokes our altars. The blood and the flesh that decays and stinks there is the blood and flesh vomited from the gullets of dogs and carrion crows, the blood of Polynices. The flesh of that unluckiest of the sons of Oedipus, still unburied and affronting more than our sense of smell. The gods themselves are disgusted. They reject our prayers and sacrifices. How could they do otherwise? My son, listen to me. Any man can make a mistake or commit a crime. The man who can recognize what he has done, see that he was mistaken or morally wrong, admit it and put it to right, that man proves that it is never too late to become wise, and no one will condemn him. But if he compounds his stupidity with stubbornness and an obstinate refusal to face the facts, he is nothing but a fool. Is there anyone more stupid than the stupid man who cannot see his own stupidity? Polynices is dead. Don't revenge yourself on his remains. You can kill a man once and once only. Is there any glory to be gained by defeating a poor corpse? This is good advice, my son, sincerely offered by someone who wishes you well. Take it.
So that's your news. Is it, old man? I am to be the target, am I? For everyone to shoot at. Well, I am wise to the ways of fortune tellers and the buying and selling you all go in for. And I am to be the latest bargain, I see. I am to be bought and sold like silver from the exchequer at Sardes or gold from India. I am to be part of the trade. Let me tell you this. There is not enough gold in the world to buy a grave for that man. Let me tell you this, Tiresias. A man can fall. He can fall like a stone, especially if he pretends to give good advice and wraps it up in a profound cloak of religiosity, when all the time naked self-interest and the greed for profit are the only motives that matter to him.
Are there any wise men left? Anywhere?
Goodness, how profound. Do you have any more thunderous platitudes to follow that one?
Mature judgment cannot be bought. No treasure is as valuable, and good advice is worth more than a fortune to any man.
And bad advice is worse than worthless. A disease which infects the wisest of men.
You describe your own symptoms exactly.
I refuse to become involved in a slanging match or quarrel with the recognized prophet of Thebes.
And yet you insult me to my face. You say my predictions are both false and dishonest.
That is because all fortune tellers are money grubbers and charlatans.
Kings, too, have been known to be acquisitive.
Do you realize the man you are talking to? I am the king.
You are the king, yes. My good advice helped to make you one.
You've had your successes. I know that. You've been proved right on more than one occasion. But honesty is another matter. I've never trusted you.
Don't provoke me to tell you everything. The dark waters of prophecy are better left undisturbed.
Disturb them! I don't care! Say anything at all, but say it honestly, not for cash.
Are you really foolish enough to believe that money has ever been my motive?
Because my integrity is not for sale.
Listen, Creon. This is the truth. Before many more days, before the sun has risen, you will have made your payment corpse for corpse with a child of your own blood. You have buried the one still living, the woman who moves and breathes, and you have given to the grave. And the dead man you have left unwashed, unwept, and without the common courtesy of a decent covering of earth, so that both have been wronged, and the gods of the underworld, to whom the body justly belongs, are denied it and are insulted. Such matters are not for you to judge. You usurp ancient rights which even the gods themselves don't dare to question, powers which are not in the prerogative of kings. Even now, implacable avengers are on their way, the Furies who rise up from hell and swoop down from heaven, fix their hooks into those who commit crimes, and will never let go. The suffering you inflicted upon others will be inflicted upon you. You will suffer as they did. Have I been bribed, do you think? Am I speaking for money now? Before very long, yes, it will be soon. There will be screaming and bitter tears and hysterical crying in this house. Men, as well as women, other cities too, other states, will turn upon you for the crime you have committed. Dogs and vultures will swarm in their streets, dropping fragments of the unburied man at corners, on doorsteps, in the public squares. They will smell the pollution and turn to you, its author. That's all I have to say. You made me angry, Creon, with your crude accusations. So I made you my target. And like a good marksman, all my shots have hit the bull. You can feel them, can't you? You can feel the pain like an arrow here. Take me home now, boy. Leave him alone to entertain some younger ears than mine with his ridiculous outbursts. Either that or let him learn maturer judgment and how a wise man controls his tongue.
Exit Tiresias, led by the boy.
My lord, he's gone, promising nothing but disasters to come. My hair grew gray in this city. I was dark-haired here, and now I am white. And in all that time, I have never known any of his prophecies to be proved wrong.
Neither have I, man. I know that much as well as you. My mind's torn apart like a tug of war, one way than the other. How can I give way now? Or how can I stand here like a fool and wait stubbornly for whatever disaster may be coming?
Lord Creon, it's time to take good advice.
Give it, then. Don't be afraid, I'll listen.
Release the woman from her underground prison and give honorable burial to the dead man.
Oh. So that's your advice. Total collapse. Complete withdrawal. Do you all think that?
We do, sir. And do it quickly for heaven's sake. The gods never move faster than when punishing men with the consequences of their own actions.
How can I do it? It's unendurable to deny every principle and every action I have stood fast by. But I dare not stand against the iron laws of necessity.
Go on, sir. Do it. Do it now. And do it personally, not by proxy. With your own hands.
Yes. I'll go, myself, at once. Somebody, everybody, bring spades and sledgehammers out onto the mountain. I'm coming with you. If I've changed my mind, I'll act upon it with exactly the same determination I sentenced her, and I'll set her free, tear down the bricks with my own hands if necessary. Perhaps it is wiser to let the old laws stand. My fear tells me it is, and that's a voice every prudent man must listen to.
Creon rushes off.
Great God with many names, child of the thunder, whom Zeus conceived on Cadmus' daughter, here in Thebes. Bacchus, Dionysus, in Italy revered, and in Demeter's mysterious Eleusis, both praised and feared. This is your native city, where the quiet river of Ismenus waters the meadows, where the fever of ecstasy possesses your womenfolk, your own Thebes, where the dragon's teeth were sown. Now, in your city, another disaster threatens. Fear locks up our tongues, and, like a plague sore on the face, the state's disease is made public. We have done wrong. Now the first necessity is for healing. From Parnassus's rocky screes, or over the singing waters of the endless seas, come to us, healer, and heal. We have suffered too long. Come, with your crazed followers, your lunatic women, the wild Maenads, authentic son of Zeus. Bring delight and dancing till we drop. Bring rest, bring peace, bring healing and rebirth. Let our anguish cease. Ecstatic God, whose many names are one.
Enter the messenger.
Senators, listen. Descendants of Cadmus, who founded our city, and Amphion, who built it, good people of Thebes. Oh, no man's life ever moves smoothly according to plan. Who can make judgments, say this is praiseworthy in human existence and this is to be despised when chance rules everything? One moment a man rides high on his fortune, and the same moment he crashes to the depths. Luck, like the tide, is certain to ebb after the flow, and no man can tell what will happen tomorrow. Oh, everyone surely envied Creon. He had saved his country from enemies, taken power as king, and his position in the state was unchallenged. What's more, he ruled well and with a firm hand, and his son was at his side to help and succeed him. All that is over now. What life can there be when the things that make life pleasant are destroyed? A kind of death, moving and breathing, but not living. That's how it is for him. Of course, he is rich, beyond accounting. He's a king still, with all the pomp and circumstance that rank implies, but what's it worth when all the joy of life is gone? A shadow, a mockery, a vulgar pageant. Who can take pleasure in wealth or power when all happiness is dead in his heart?
More tragedy for this family? Tell us your news.
They're both dead, and the living must take the blame.
Who killed them? Who's dead? What happened? Tell us.
The king's son, Haman. The royal blood shed by a royal hand.
His father, you mean? Or his own?
His own held the sword, but his father's actions drove it home.
The prophet warned us, and it all came true.
That's how things are. It's in your hands now.
The doors are opening. Look, there's Eurydice. Poor woman. Creon's wife. Does she know, do you think? Has she come here by chance? Or because she heard rumors about her son?
Gentlemen, good friends, my ears caught something of what you were saying, a few words as I opened the door. I was on my way to offer prayers to Pallas Athena. We had just drawn back the bolt when I heard a few scraps of your conversation, enough to make me fear what all mothers fear, an accident or some disaster to those we love. I almost fainted. My ladies in waiting caught me in their arms. Please, speak it out plainly, whatever it is. I can bear it. We are bred to stoicism in this family.
Dear Queen, whom we all respect, I was there. I saw it all, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. There's no point in trying to soften the blow now, only to be proved a liar later. Best to tell the truth. I went with the king, your husband, to the edge of the battlefield where we saw the body of Polynices, still lying where he fell, and in a terrible state the dogs had been at him. So we prayed. First to Hecate, who haunts crossroads and tombs and the scenes of crimes committed but not atoned for, and then to Pluto, king of the dead. We asked them to have pity on him and on us, and not to be angry. Then we washed him, or what was left of him, with holy water, cut fresh branches to make fire and burned the remains. Then we shoveled a mound of his own Theban earth over the ashes. And when we had finished, we hurried off as fast as we could to the prison cell, furnished with stones that served as a bridal suite for the girl married to death. But before we arrived, one of the soldiers, with the unenviable job of guarding that God-forsaken place, came running back to tell the king that he'd heard a terrible noise, like screaming from inside the mountain. And as Creon got nearer, he heard it too. Faint, but audible, kind of weird sobbing or moaning, low and unearthly, as though grief were speaking its own naked language. The king groaned aloud, and we all heard him say, "Oh God, this is what I was afraid of. Am I a prophet too? This path up to the tomb, these last few steps are the most agonizing journey I will ever make. I can hear my son's voice in there. You, quickly, guards, anybody, get inside, squeeze between the rocks where somebody has already forced an entrance, get into the main chamber of the cave, and tell me if it is my son's voice I recognize or whether the gods are playing some brutal game with me." So we went in and looked, as the half-crazed king had told us to, and in the darkest corner we saw her, strung up by the neck, hanging from an improvised rope of twisted linen strips torn from her own dress. Haman was right beside her, cuddling her body as it dangled there, sobbing broken-heartedly at his wife's death, and the marriage bad luck and his father's cruelty had made certain would never take place. When Creon saw them, he staggered into the cave, groaning like an animal and sobbing aloud. "My boy, my poor boy, what have you done?" And then, "Have you gone mad coming here? There's nothing here for you but death and annihilation and despair. Come away from there, my son. Come out, for God's sake. I'm begging you, come away." But the boy just looked at him. And his eyes were terrifying, with an anger that I've never seen before. Without a word, he spat in his father's face. He drew his sword and he lunged straight for the old man. But Creon, he was quick. He skipped out of distance. And that poor lad, hysterical with grief, self-disgust, he held his sword at arm's length and he plunged it between his own ribs. And then, still conscious, he lifted the girl down into the crook of his arm and he cradled her there in his own blood. His breathing got harder and shorter. And as his life flooded away before our eyes like a fountain soaking her body so that her white cheeks flushed red again with blood stains. Whew. So, now they're together. Two corpses joined in death. He got his marriage, poor lad, but it was solemnized in the grave, where there are no celebrations. They looked like honeymooners, quietly sleeping side by side in one bed. Evidence of the havoc man can bring upon man by his own pig-headedness and arrogance.
That's strange. What do you make of it? His wife has gone without a word, giving no indication of her own feelings one way or another.
It scares me a bit, but I'm quite sure she has good reason. Public demonstration of grief would be unlike her. So she'll suffer like any other mother for her son's death, but in private with her women. She'd never do anything foolish or indiscreet, I'm sure of that. She's far too sensible.
I don't know. Her silence was unnerving, dangerously unlike what one would expect. That sort of silence is sometimes more threatening than screaming and tears.
I'll go in after her, just to make sure that the grief doesn't tempt her to anything silly or excessive. You're right, the silence was unnerving. She seemed to feel nothing. And in my experience, that can be dangerous.
The messenger goes in after the queen. As he does so, the doors open and the servants enter, carrying the dead body of Haman on a bier, closely followed by the distraught Creon.
Look there! The king is coming, but not alone. A silent witness comes before him, dead as stone, unspeaking evidence that the crime, like the grief, is all his own. He suffers now for his wrongdoing.
Pain. There was hatred inside me. The urge to destroy drove me like a maniac. An insane plunge towards death. Your death, my boy. See here, the killer and his victim. See here, the father and his son. I was responsible. My actions killed him. There is no blame for him, none. Blasted in the morning of your life, my hope, my joy. My hand powered the knife. My arrogance determined your fate.
You see the truth now, but you see it too late.
Suffering is the only school teacher. The gods have broken my back, whipped me like a beast up this stony track and destroyed my self-respect. All pleasure, all rejoicing they have turned to anguish and weeping. Man is a naked mortal creature. Affliction is all he can expect.
Re-enter the messenger.
My lord, you have suffered enough, but more suffering is marked to your name. One agony lies here in the open, another is waiting, same anguish redoubled behind the door.
There can be nothing worse. My heart is broken.
Your wife is dead. The mother of this slaughtered son, her wound fresh, but the breath of life is gone.
Hades is deep. Bottomless the abyss of the dead. Will you kill me too? Or bring me to my knees to suffer longer, beating my head, insensible with pain? What can you say, messenger of death with the sad face, more than you've already said? My way is towards the darkness. My case can be no worse than it is. Can you kill me again? I am dead already. Is there more blood, more savagery, more hacking of flesh, more pain? First the son, then the mother. No end to this grief.
There's no hiding it now. See for yourself.
The doors open to reveal Eurydice dead.
Unending, unendurable pain. This is the second time I am forced to see what no man's eye should ever see, even once. Is this how it ends? Or will there be more torture, more suffering? A few moments ago, my trembling arms embraced a dead son. Now death has snatched the mother from my hands.
It was there, by the household shrine, she collapsed, still holding her razor-sharp knife. And as darkness drew down its slow blinds and her eyes closed, she spoke of Megareus, who died in the fullness of his youth, her elder boy. By his empty bed she wept. And for the son, whose life ended today, and with her last dying breath, cursed you as his murderer, who drove him to this death.
Shaking. I shall go mad with this terror. There must be a sword somewhere, sharp, two-edged knife to cut away my life. Living is misery for me now forever. When I look, I see blood everywhere.
It's no more than the truth I've told. Her last word was to blame you for both deaths, mother and son.
How did she die? Did she do it alone?
She heard them weeping for Haman, cried aloud, and skewered herself under the heart with a sword.
She spoke the truth. All the guilt is mine. I am the murderer. Make that plain. Somebody, anybody, take me away. I disgrace the decent light of day. I am nothing now. I have become nothing. Nothing can happen to a man who is nothing.
How can we judge for the best in times like these? Prompt action is safest. What more is there to lose?
Where are you, my friend? Come, you shadowy messenger who runs faster than the wind. Wrap me in darkness as a friend should. Why waste another day? What good is daylight to me? Why should my misery darken the face of another dawn? Pull down the blind.
Tomorrow is a mystery. No man can say what time will make plain. We live day by day. The future is in greater hands than ours.
I am nothing. I want nothing. My last simplest prayers.
No time for prayers now. Too late to pray. What must come will come. Tomorrow or today.
I am nothing. Take me then. The man who killed without knowing it his wife and son. Where shall I go then? Left or right? All wrong turnings now into the night darkness hide me. There's blood on my hands. My head is split. My back is broken. I should be dead.
The key to human happiness is to nurture wisdom in your heart. For a man to attend to man's business and let the gods play their part. Above all, to stand in awe of the eternal, unalterable law. A proud man may pretend in his arrogance to despise everything but himself. In the end, the gods will bring him to grief. Today, it has happened here. With our own eyes, we have seen an old man, through suffering, become wise.
A huge round of applause. Yay. Congrats. Again, a huge round of applause to our cast of Antigone, written by Sophocles, again, presented by the Studio Theater. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so happy to have you here with us. And please be sure to refresh our Facebook page. In about 5 minutes, we'll be back to talk to you and answer any questions you have about our process or the play live in a talkback. We'll answer your questions that you leave in the comments. Next week, we have a play called Qualia on Friday, May 29th at 1 p.m. That is written by a local playwright, Ashley Gardner. We're really excited for that one, so please check in for that as well. Great. That's everything we have for you. Please refresh in about 5 minutes, and thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to stay safe, stay home, and stay healthy. We love you.